Hi everyone, this is David, and welcome back to the channel. Now we've been journeying through the book of Ezekiel and moving from the prophecies of judgment to the promises of restoration. Today we're covering what is arguably some of the most well-known and debated chapters in the entire book. It's Ezekiel 37, 38, and 39. Now these chapters contain prophecies that are so vivid and dramatic that they've captivated readers for centuries. They're incredibly significant for understanding God's plans for Israel and the world. So, with all that as an introduction, let's take a closer look at what we have today. God will, with supernatural power, restore and defend his people, proving his sovereignty and holiness to all the nations. At the time when this video is being filmed, the nation of Israel has been going through several conflicts simultaneously, and we've witnessed some incredible military successes for that nation, which indeed seem supernatural. Over 26,000 missiles were launched at Israel in the first year of these conflicts alone, with over 96% of them intercepted or failing to reach their targets. Enemy pagers blowing up simultaneously. Precision strikes so accurate that only a single occupant in a room was affected. And the list goes on. All of this is just a precursor to what will take place when these prophecies come to pass. This message has both a historical fulfillment and a future ultimate fulfillment. Let's begin with one of the most iconic visions in the entire Bible. The scene is one of complete hopelessness. Ezekiel is brought to a valley filled with dry bones. Not just any bones, but very many bones, and they're very, very dry. And it's not just a metaphor for death, it's a picture of long-term, irreversible death. Kind of like this cemetery that I'm in with all these tombstones around me. Well, God asks Ezekiel a very absurd question to most of us. Son of man, can these bones live? Well, in Ezekiel, being who he is, he responds as only a faithful person could. O Lord, only you know. He doesn't have hope in the bones. He has hope in the God who created life itself. God then commands Ezekiel to prophesy to the bones and tell them to hear the word of the Lord. Well, as Ezekiel speaks, a miracle unfolds. The bones rattle, they come together, they're covered with sinews, with flesh and skin, but there's still no life in them yet. Then God commands Ezekiel to prophesy to the wind, to the spirit, to breathe life into these bodies. Well, and they stand up, and a vast living army is there. Maybe it's just the times that I grew up in, but I can hardly help keep from hearing dim bones, dim, dry bones, dim, dry bones. I don't know if any of you know that old song, but every time I read this chapter, I kind of hear that going on. Well, God explains the meaning of this vision to Ezekiel. The dry bones are the whole house of Israel in exile. They had lost all hope, saying, "Our bones are all dried up, and our hope is lost. We're indeed cut off." The vision of God's promise is that he will open the graves and bring them back to their land and put out his spirit in them, causing them to live again. This is a prophecy of a national and spiritual resurrection of Israel. It's partially fulfilled when they return from Babylon in exile, but the full spiritual resurrection is still yet to come. Another part we've seen fulfilled in 1948 when the nation of Israel was reborn after World War II. Now, the second part of chapter 37 reinforces this. God tells Ezekiel to take two sticks. One of them represents Judah, the other represents Israel, sometimes called Ephraim, and together they represent the two divided kingdoms. He is to join them into one stick in his hand. This is a prophecy of a future reunification of the divided nation under one king, the servant David, a clear reference to the Messiah, Jesus Christ. Now, this prophecy speaks not only of a physical, but a national reunion, but it's also a spiritual one, where all of God's people, Jews and Gentiles, are united under one shepherd. Now we're going to move on to chapters 38 and 39. which are perhaps the most debated and speculative prophecies in the entire Bible. Now, the term speculative refers to man's attempts to interpret it in light of world events. So in chapter 38 and 39, it describes a future battle involving a leader named Gog from the land of Magog. He'll lead a vast coalition of nations to attack a regathered and peaceful Israel. The nations mentioned are from all directions: Persia, Cush, Put, Gomer, Togarmah. Their motivation is simple. They see Israel living in prosperity and security, and they're motivated by their greed to plunder the land. God says he will put hooks in their jaws and bring you out as if he's the one orchestrating this attack to serve his own purposes. And what is God's purpose? Well, it's not to allow Israel to be defeated. Instead, he says, I will make myself known in the eyes of many nations, and they shall know that I am the Lord. The battle is divinely orchestrated not to test Israel's might, but to display God's overwhelming power. God's response to this massive army is an act of pure supernatural force. He says he will bring an earthquake and cause the soldiers to turn on one another and rain down torrents of rain, great hailstones, fire, and brimstone. Just imagine a soggy, wet plain where armor and tanks, all the weapons of war that need to be mobile, are stuck in a muddy field. They just become paperweights and they're totally useless. This destruction is so complete that it will take 7 months just to bury the dead, and the people will use the abandoned weapons for firewood for 7 years. Well, the meaning of this battle is not necessarily about identifying modern-day nations, though we have many that's tried to do that. It's about a final dramatic display of God's sovereignty. The Gog and Magog prophecy shows that even when Israel is restored and seemingly secure, there will be a final desperate attempt by the forces of evil to destroy them. But God will fight for his people and defeat the enemies in such a way that no one can doubt his power. So to summarize these 3 chapters, Ezekiel 37 promises the physical and spiritual restoration of the nation of Israel and its reunion as one nation under one king. Ezekiel 38 and 39 then reveal that even after this great restoration, there will be a final but dramatic conflict. Now, this battle is not a test of Israel's strength, but it's the stage for God to reveal his glory, his holiness, and his power over the entire world. It's all a beautiful picture of redemption. God will not only restore his people from their spiritual death, but he will also be their ultimate defender against all who oppose them, proving once again to everyone that he is Lord. Well, thanks for watching today, and I'm glad you took the time to be with me today. If you find these videos being helpful to you, please take time to like and subscribe. Feel free to leave a comment. If you have some thoughts on this, I'd love to hear about them. Take care, and we'll see you next time here on Set Sail with Grace Harbor.